All around us, there is evidence of climate change. Not only can we see it, we can measure it. Global temperatures are warming, weather and patterns are changing, polar ice is melting, and the sea levels are rising. But what about here in our region? How can we localize what we sometimes glaze over as a bigger picture or a future issue? Niharika Bandaru is an executive director of Windsor of Change. She joins me now. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Amy.
Happy Earth Day.
Happy Earth Day to you.
So, how would you characterize how climate change is affecting us now?
So, I do like that we're starting off right there because oftentimes we do think of climate change and we think of all of the impacts happening in far off places to distant people. But yes, indeed, it is already being felt in and around Windsor, Essex. And, we don't have to go very far back to think about the impacts. I mean, just as recently as 2017, 2016, those massive flood events. That's a big example of the increased amounts of rainfall and precipitation in general that we will be experiencing and are already actually in the region. And being the southern, in the southernmost region of Canada, we can also be expected to witness an increased amount of heat. So that maybe just in general, like average temperatures throughout the seasons, and the onset of, all kinds of impacts from that. So what does that mean? So just longer heat waves, more frequent heat waves in the summer, just a rapid amount of change in a short amount of time. What kind of diseases and insects of all kinds to plant life, animal life, and human life that it can bring with it, because now we're a host to many of these species that we weren't able to, be home to before. So, the IRCA, the Essex Region Conservation Authority, tags the upcoming impacts or the ongoing and upcoming impacts of climate change in our region as warmer, wetter, and wilder. So that's something to keep in mind when you think of the peninsular area that we're in Windsor, Essex.
I want you to expand on that because we often hear that Canada is warming twice as fast as the global average. Can you break down what exactly that means?
So we do understand that, there's the average rate of change when it comes to surface temperature, so all around the world. But Canada has a huge landmass, and we have a huge area that is that's ice covered and has permafrost. So especially the northern regions of Canada are almost warming. So on average, because we have such a huge landmass, all of Canada is warming twice as fast. But the northern regions of Canada are warming. Some places are warming 3 times as fast, even. So so you see those Arctic regions sort of thawing more, not having that ice cover, that permafrost cover. And it's tricky because once the permafrost melts, the ground sort of exhales the methane it was trapping, which further contributes to greenhouse gases and global warming, which further contributes. So you call that a positive feedback loop. It's sort of a technical term, but it's making the one thing's feeding into the other and sort of exacerbating and exaggerating everything.
I want you to bring this home for us. How does the region compare to the rest of the rest of Ontario?
So, because again, we are so farther south, we are the southernmost city in Canada, Windsor and the Windsor-Essex region. We will be experiencing temperatures, average temperatures will be higher than the rest of Canada. Like I said earlier, more number of heat waves and more frequent heat waves. We can also, in general, Windsor-Essex was always sort of experienced less of that typical Canadian winter than the rest of Canada. So it's sort of safe to say that in the winter, we can see that a lot of the snow might turn into rain or hail or ice. But when it does snow, it might come down in droves because we're so close to Lake Erie. And what that means is that, all those clouds are picking up all that water, and dumping it right away, right here. So, the government, the local governments here in Windsor, Essex have also recognized that we're especially vulnerable to more heat-related illnesses because of all of the concrete and asphalt that's also around us. And also, sort of certain periods in Windsor, Essex during the summer, even though, I'm talking about a lot of rain, might be experiencing drought.
I want you to give us a better idea also about the flooding because I know for many people in Windsor, Essex, every time it rains, those of us
Yeah.
who have been impacted by the
Yeah.
floods in our
Yeah.
basements, we get a bit anxious
Yeah.
every time it's flooding. How much worse is it going to get as the years pass?
You're absolutely right. Flooding is the number. Like I said, when it's going to rain, it's going to pour. Those 1 in 100-year storms and 1 in 20-year storms are going to become more frequent. So they're actually reanalyzing, and, Environment and Climate Change Canada is sort of giving them those frequency ratings are changing. Recent reports have stated that the average person in Windsor, Essex, in Ontario has to take about 7 days off of work every time their basement floods. Now, that's huge. That's a lot. That's, sick days that aren't available to people. And that's a lot. Like, that's constant climate anxiety that's on your mind. So every time, I know personally, when it rains, I have to go check the sump pumps, wake up in the middle of the night. And that's just me personally, but then I can imagine how much worse it is for people. The sewer backing up, the infrastructure, your larger infrastructure, your storm sewers, are they working as well? Can you make it into work tomorrow? Can you drop your kids off to school tomorrow? So there's a lot. It's difficult because we have to sort of plan for both extremes, where there's a lack of water and there's too much water all at once.
You've been working on climate concerns in our region, so in Windsor and in Essex County for a decade now. What's been your biggest observation?
I think my biggest observation has been that there has been a shift in the conversation. I think more and more people are tuning in and understanding that we are living in an age of climate change. It's not just an issue of the future. So you hear maybe snippets of these, and you like this past winter was warmer than usual, and we barely saw any snow. And I've seen people sort of tune into, yeah, we know why that's happening, don't we?
How does the city of Windsor compare to other municipalities when it comes to making changes to address those climate concerns?
So the city of Windsor has actually been honored by, some global municipalities in terms of climate change policy. So they do, I think, ever since 2012, they've released some climate adaptation and climate energy, or community energy and corporate energy policies. And, yesterday at the Malton Park Earth Day event, they had a huge booth just talking about their new community energy plan, and then the latest report that they published about where the energy sinks are. So there's a lot of planning and a lot of policy work underway. I think to bring it home, we do continuously need to make sure that the city's councillors understand that this is a top priority, and not just because it's in a plan already. We need to make sure that those plans actually make it off of the shelves and continue to be under sort of the microscope of the public, public view.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amy.
Appreciate you coming in this morning as well to the studio.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Niharika Bandaru is an executive director of Windsor of Change. Still to come here on Windsor.